This episode of the No Name Film Show Thingy is brought to you by Live Lots from the Foster Gallery. Live Lots is an online marketplace at the Foster Gallery that provides one-time runs in monthly increments of low-cost artwork that can be bought and shipped directly to your home. Find out more at www.thefostergallery.com. All right. Hey everybody, this is Matt Foster, and I am joined again by Kevin Walunas. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
My partner in crime on the No Name Film Show Thingy. And today we're going to talk about special effects, right? CGI. Well, CGI. Now, let's start it that way. Is CGI the same as special effects?
Yes and no.
Okay. In the day and age we live in, it's basically how they do special effects, right?
It's basically the exact same thing. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people still opt to do practical special effects, but now, and by practical special effects, for those of you who don't know that terminology, that means special effects that you can actually touch, I guess, for lack of better terms. They're not digitally made.
But like a true fireball.
Yeah, like a true fireball, or, you know, an actual explosion going off on set, or, you know, a mechanical puppet or something along those lines. Certain props that light up in certain ways, you know. Yeah. Those kind of special effects.
And then just to bring the comparison, a CGI, for those who don't know, is a computer graphic.
Yep.
So, and computer graphics, my understanding, totally post-production, like people act around them, right?
Yes. Yes. No. Okay. It's not something that's done beforehand, and then the actors know it's done well after the actors are gone.
Are there any movies that like pride themselves now as being non-CGI like special effect movies?
I mean, there are a few. A lot of indie movies still kind of do practical special effects. You know, mind you, they're not trying to make big budget explosions or anything, but you know, a lot of the ones that would take, you know, a lot of computing power, you know, indie outlets might not have, right. You know, server farms, that kind of thing. You try and opt for the practical special effect. And I know a lot of contemporary filmmakers who've gotten really sick about the fakeness of CGI still. So, you know, a lot of them try to opt for practical special effects whenever they can, even though it does cost a little more.
Well, let's talk about that, because CGI, the minute that someone starts discussing CGI in my mind, I mean, the part of me goes, well, wow, they've come so far, which I would be the first to tell somebody I think CGI is incredible what they can do now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it is fair to say that especially the trained eye probably knows right away, oh, that's CGI, like without a doubt, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah. Well, yes. It's very hard to, especially for a trained eye, to trick it. Yeah. You know? My qualms with CGI, and I'm just going to get this out the bat, you know, I think I've established in an earlier show, you know, I'm not the biggest James Cameron fan.
Right. You and I both, though, so that works out good.
So, you know, I think CGI dates your movie, and I think it dates the movie not necessarily in a good way. I think a lot of these movies that a lot of people are like, oh, that's a classic, that's going to stand, you know, that's going to be here forever, it's such an important movie. You're going to watch it in, you know, a very short amount of time, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and it's going to look cheesy, it's going to look corny, and that magic you felt necessarily in the theater is going to be gone.
And that's not true. That's not true for traditional special effects?
No, because they visually look real.
Because they are real, right?
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they're faked or, you know, done in a safe environment or something like that, but they look like they actually happened.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, like, you know, you'll have Avatar even kind of now still is starting to look a little like really old computer graphics.
Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about the aging, right? And I'm bringing this up to see if I'm on the same wavelength here. So correct me if I'm saying something different.
Absolutely.
But one of the first things that I notice is human interaction. The way that people and the CGI are working together on screen.
Yep.
And that part seems to stick out it seems to age the fastest, I guess it would be the way I would say it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, so, and the one that I just happened to see the other day with my kids was one of the newer, not the old ones, the newer Star Wars films.
Yes, no, I was literally going to bring that up right after.
And,
yep.
and I was like shocked at how bad.
Prime example. Yep.
The first one, the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
And my kids love it, so they don't notice any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But and they're 9 and 4, so they're the perfect age.
Yeah, they're literally the perfect age.
They're not criticizing anything yet, right?
Yeah.
And but I kept noticing how when they were talking to Jar Jar Binks, who was and that was a big deal at the time, right? He was one of the early fully digital characters that had to interact with people and all this other stuff,
yep.
right?
Very, very early on, yeah.
And did they have a guy stand in for him, like in a green suit or not?
I believe so.
Okay.
They would have theoretically, I think, had to at that point too, especially for the technology. So.
Well, you can blatantly see on screen, what is it? Ewan McGregor and who's the other guy?
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson, staring at his neck.
Oh yeah. There's problems with eye contact. Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. You can tell they are not talking to a real person.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, and that's one of the things. That's some of the things a lot of people are going to start noticing soon, for a lot of those classic movies that came out in the last 20 years that really use CG.
Yeah.
You know, it's and look at, if you showed your kids Tron, the first one.
Oh yeah.
Whether they think it's cool or not, they still know that's really cheesy computer graphics. But at the time when that came out, that blew people's minds.
Yeah. Well, I just came back from Florida from last week,
Mm-hmm.
and I cannot go to Epcot without doing Captain EO.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But now the cheesiness in that, and for those who don't know, it's a theater experience at Epcot that has Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And it was directed by Coppola and what's his face from Star Wars, Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
And they both combined and you know what's hilarious is all the Lucas undertones to it, with the trench and the all of these things that he blatantly had in every other movie, and they just were like, yeah, that's a Lucas thing, so we'll throw that in,
Yep. It's like, I swear to God, it's the whole thing is just like a giant nod to everybody who was involved.
It really is. And but how awful, just unforgivable some of the graphics are, the explosions and the I mean, the sound effects were actually very good. I was surprised at how good the sound effects were.
Yeah.
But the visuals, it dates it, and you can kind of see if this is where Lucas was with things, why he would want to update things. But I don't agree with that either, and maybe we can have a whole discussion about that.
Yeah, that honestly, I could talk about that for a whole episode.
Yeah, I mean, but that brings up an interesting point about CGI, which is because it's CGI, it kind of gives you that availability, right?
In a way, yeah.
You don't have. I mean, if you were trying to do, and I'm trying to think of a movie that would probably avoid CGI, maybe the early Indiana Jones movies.
Yes.
There's really no need for CGI, right? In those?
Nope, that's almost 100% practical.
Right. So in that case, here's a movie that has a lot of special effects in it still.
Yeah.
But because none of it was CGI, you would kind of be hard pressed to be able to edit it, right? I mean, I would think. I'm not saying that as a filmmaker, so correct me, but it would be kind of tough to say, hey, you know what, we're going to omit the smoke and the fire, when actually it was captured on film. That's what it was.
Yeah, no, you have to digitally remove it, so it ends up being a digital effect. So
just to get rid of it.
There's to emit, fire and smoke, if it's actually in a frame and stuff, and it's in a frame you need to use, you got to digitally erase it.
Yeah, that's got to be a challenge.
Yeah, you got to do that frame by frame. It's a pain in the butt. It is a big pain in the butt. But
so let's hit that Lucas thing just for a minute, and we could. I think you're right. Is that we could talk about that for a whole episode.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, what is your down and dirty? Your 2-minute on it.
It's as a filmmaker, I can understand owning a movie. I think that's the problem with a lot of Lucas's films, is his fan base is so rabid, I guess, for, lack of better terms, that they kind of believe they own the movie. And in a way they do. But that being said, it's still George Lucas's movie in the end. So I can agree with him on doing whatever he wants to do with all of his cuts and stuff. The only real problem I have is not making older cuts available. Because, with the Blu-ray edition, you can only get the updated cut, in high def and all that other stuff. It's not like Blade Runner. You can get every single cut of Blade Runner known to man on every format basically now. I actually had a friend who literally just he owns every single cut of it. But just the fact that they didn't do that with Star Wars, and you have the main complaint about Star Wars now is how they're going back and updating it.
Well,
I don't know. It just makes me upset.
Well, it's actually interesting because the way you're expressing it is a little different than the way I've heard people complain about it, which is that it's not so much the fact that he wants to update the movies because they're able to do that. It's and him owning the ability to modify his creation or revise it, if you will.
Yeah.
But and people have been doing that for books for years and years. People have done that with all kinds of stuff. But the problem is the lack of access to the original.
Yes, that's the problem, especially with some of these older movies, that necessarily weren't digital versions originally.
Right.
So it's not like I can go, I found, look, I have this extra original cut on film of Star Wars.
Right. Well, I mean, my understanding is the only way to get the original Star Wars cut digital is Laserdisc, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, and most people don't even know what Laserdisc is.
Right. Right. It's like a CD, but it's this big.
Yeah, it's the record version of a CD.
Exactly. Yep. That's right.
But yeah, no, I think it's VHS and
Laserdisc.
And Laserdisc, yeah. So the only really digital version, and that's not HD theoretically. So
right, that's right.
So you only have it in a standard def cut.
So again, as a filmmaker, do you consider that, historical revisionism? You know what I mean?
Basically that's kind of as somebody who studies film too, that's kind of what it's viewed as, I feel, in academia too. It's kind of I don't know, it's you're rewriting history too, it's one of those things that it's if you wanted to show the original cuts to your kids, do you have a Laserdisc player at your house?
Right. No.
I mean, yeah, you might have a VHS player, but the kids are $5, when I have kids eventually too, those kids, if I try to show them the original cut on VHS, they're gonna be like, what is that?
I can't even make it out.
Yeah, they can't even watch it, and that's if we even have hookups for that stuff.
But I mean, is that his point though? That's the way is that he can always claim, well, hey, it's not like I took away the original, I'm just not continuing to produce it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a horrible claim.
That could be the argument from his point of view, but I feel like that's BS. You know what I'm saying? It's any other movie too. I feel like it wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Oh,
but Star Wars is one of the probably most. I mean, it's the most important sci-fi movie. I could probably.
Well, and I would make the claim that it's the most profitable chain franchise movie of all time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt, right?
How much did Disney just buy all of it for?
Well, exactly, and also, and that's without giving up the rights to Lucas, right? Because he still retains some of the rights.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's also why it's probably such a sore spot. Like you were saying before, it has such rabid fans that they can't allow it to be anything other than what they remember. And I gotta say, that does irritate me too. I mean, it's funny. We'll watch the old ones with the new CGI in it, and my boys will be like, "Oh, look at that," and I'll be like, "Yeah, that wasn't really there." Like
Yeah, that's lame.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's like that whole extra scene with Han and Jabba now
Yeah.
too. That's just the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen.
It's really bad because Jabba is actually out of proportion in it.
Oh yeah,
he's smaller than he should be.
I mean I think the worst part was them changing Han shooting first. That totally ruins his character arc.
Yep. No, I agree with that.
The reason why Han Solo is so good is because he shot first, not because he does.
Well, he's supposed to be the rebel. Yeah, he's supposed to be the rebel. Yeah.
What is the?
Yeah.
I don't even know what it was. We had all me and a lot of my crew had seen it while we were actually working on a short. Once we saw the updated cut, and literally my visual effects guy was just ripping into it, and he literally, while he was editing, you'd just see him every couple minutes just go.
Yeah.
Like it
becomes an industry
stuff
joke.
like that. Well, I wouldn't mind if the background stuff, whatever. But when you change fundamental parts of the story that include somebody's main character arc, that's where I start to really have an issue.
Well, I gotta say, and not that I'm defending or denying, because I'm a Star Wars fan,
Yeah, I am too.
One thing that I was surprised they didn't update, and not that I cared, because I love the original one the way it was, but the way they killed Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
You kind of thought, well, that was an obvious, like, they didn't have a good way to do it. You would think that would be something that would be revised, and they didn't. You know what I mean? They kind of just left it as is. And even as a kid, I was kind of like, well, that's a cheesy way to get rid of him. like they didn't want to show him sliced up or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you have to. A lot of, I guess. I've never read Expanded Universe or anything like that, but apparently that's all explained at one point. I've had it explained to me once. I might have had a few beers in me too, so it was one of those like, oh, okay.
I think we could easily have a whole Star Wars show, to be honest, and we probably will.
Yes.
We probably will.
I have a feeling.
So another question to you about CGI.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a good example? And I'm so good at putting you on the spot on these things. So think about it. But what would be a good example of a movie where that it had CGI, but because it was cleverly used, you may not think that they had CGI. And my example would be kind of like not a thriller space movie, but rather a movie about a boy reading a book. You know what I mean? Like are there movies that have CGI? And I'll tell you one that I could think of would be, and granted of it, would be like Forrest Gump. So Forrest Gump definitely has CGI in it, but it's used in a way that you're kind of like, okay, it's not in your face, but you know that they're using it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Is there a good
especially for
example of
that whole sequence. Those are composite shots too. A lot of the stuff in Forrest Gump.
So what does that mean?
So basically, it's a digital layover, basically, of real shots. You know what I'm saying? So like, the prime example
CGI
of
is not that?
CGI is and it isn't at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like CGI for a lot of people just means computer graphics, like animated things to try and make them look real, a completely 3D from the ground up digitally made section of a shot or something like that. With some people arguably don't believe green screen necessarily CGI. That falls more under just special effects in general. I still anything digital I kind of consider CGI, unless you're doing it on set with like an explosives guy. Like I'm going to consider it, a digital special effect.
And until this right now,
digital,
well, until us discussing this right now, that's what I would consider CGI.
Yeah.
Anything made with a computer on it.
Yeah. So, the Forrest Gump section of that, that was, I think, early days of Avid too. So, they digitally laid that over. A lot of that was green screen and made sure it was lit right. So they actually had to film Tom Hanks for, I'm specifically talking about the sequence where he's like put into all those fake historical events for the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So like those are all just digitally laid over shots, and they like removed Nixon's mouth at one point, all that stuff, all the people when they talk. So it's it's partially they're using real footage, But I think the best movie that has CG, like, and I think serious CG that I think will really stand the test of time is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay, yeah, yep.
Because Lord of the Rings I feel like Peter Jackson really understands the capability, and I saw it less in The Hobbit, but I think in the first first three Lord of the Rings, they really understood the limit of CG, and because it was a fantasy movie too, that they could get away with it looking a little more dreamy.
Yeah, yep.
So it really works, and it's in your head. You're not like, oh, look at that CG landscape.
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
softer.
You just kind of, it's like, look at that landscape.
Yeah, yeah, it's
and
a
you
softer.
don't know because New Zealand really kind of sort of does look like that too.
Right.
So
right.
they did a very nice job doing that nice balance.
Yeah, no,
I think that's one of the few. That's one of the few movies that I feel like is going to stand the test of time for CG.
Those are fantastic, and I got to agree with you. Is that the Hobbit seemed to there's a part of the Hobbit where it seems like they try to take it to a new level, and
like
I agree that it almost takes it back a little bit.
Yeah, the troll was the major one that I was just like,
yeah.
Man.
Well, now I know this isn't a CGI related thing, but just speaking of the Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in that new frame rate, in the really high frame rate there.
The 48 frames a second, yeah.
It actually ruined the movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it.
Yeah. To trained eyes, like 24 frames a second, which is what normal movies are shown at. Live TV is 30 frames a second, so the news, sports games, all that stuff. That's why sports games in the news looks a little different.
Right.
For the trained eye, like I can kind of see the flicker for 24 frames a second. Like I can actually see it.
Really?
Yeah, but that's just because I'm a film editor too, and that's just something my eyeballs can see sometimes.
Right.
With the 48 frames a second, a lot of people, I feel like for filmmakers it's kind of cool. I didn't like it personally because they only showed the 48 frame rates in 3D too, and my eyes just wanted to literally fall out of their head. Just straight
they
out.
Only
like, I can't,
okay, and I did see it in 3D, so that's what I saw was the.
So like
48...
I couldn't see and I part time in a movie theater too, so it's like there isn't a cut of the 48 frames in 2D.
Right.
I have a few friends who swear by it, who are really really big hi-fi nerds, not necessarily filmmakers, but people who have like some serious home theater systems and stuff like that.
But what are they swearing by? What are they swearing by?
They think it just looks so real, blah blah blah, and I think that's the problem.
I think that's the problem too. I'll tell you the first thing I thought of, and I remember the first time I thought it was I was sitting there watching, and there's a part where they're like on a ledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there going...
It's towards the end, right?
It's somewhat... No, I'm sorry. I know where you're thinking of, but this is towards the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And they're kind of like on a pass or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And a dragon's coming or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I'm in the theater watching it. I'm going, oh my God. You can tell it's a set.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like it does not look real. I mean, it looks real. It looks hyper real.
Yes,
it's so real that they're not giving the illusion that it's where they're supposed to be.
A lot of people don't realize, up frame rate. They're like, they don't really understand what that means. You're getting with just the numbers alone, you're literally getting double the amount of visual information in a second. So anything that even looks, that would pass for the 24 frames a second, that would look like super beautiful, super real, does not take you out of that movie.
Yeah.
Would then look like that looks like somebody just hodgepodged that together.
Exactly.
Which they did.
Well, and I noticed it on some of the costumes too.
Oh yeah.
Is that suddenly when something looked like a fake coat, you could tell it was a fake coat or whatever,
Yeah, it wasn't made out of the actual material it should be made out of.
Right.
They ran into this problem too when when all the news sets went from when TV switched over from regular def to high def.
Yeah.
They had to rebuild every single set they had.
Oh,
because
no kidding.
It's like everything looks good on TV, but it's like everything's gaff taped on the backside.
Right.
Like paper clips and stuff like that. You can't fake it. That with definition, and we're coming up to even higher def stuff now, not even including the frame rate. We're seeing movies in 2K and 4K now.
Yep.
You really, really can't fake anything.
Right.
Which is awesome for me because I've worked in scene shops for black box theaters, where people are like 2 feet from the set in real life.
Right.
So like I have a nice time because I always kind of put that, level, that effort into some of sets and stuff I've worked on. And, I always try and go for, the more realism rather than, having to rely on, the falsity of film per se.
But will you agree that, and this is a total novice comment, so and I'm very curious how you bounce this back over the net at me, is that I remember the first time I got a digital 8 camera, right? And I remember thinking to myself, when I bought it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like movie quality. Like this is going to be cinema quality type, filming, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking to myself, watching it afterwards, like, this still doesn't look like it loses because it's more definition.
Yes.
It actually loses that cinema homogenized feel. Does that make sense?
In a way, yes.
And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Will you, as a filmmaker, do you, and I know my answer to this, but I'm not a filmmaker, do you desire things to look more like cinema, like what we're used to seeing at 24 frames a second, and you have a certain kind of overall lighting feel and things like that? Or do you prefer this super real? Because, and I'll tell you another time that we noticed it was my wife and I when we bought an OLED TV.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we had high def cable and everything. And it literally took us like a mind shift because everything looked like a soap opera. And again, it was that higher definition of things. It was that you felt like the room was a fake room. You could tell when things were sets and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you like? What do you prefer? I guess is my question.
I'm always a guy who's story first for when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it depends on what I'm filming. It depends on the story kind of calls for. If I'm looking for something gritty and real, maybe I'm not going to go for if I'm making a Cloverfield, if I'm making a found footage movie,
sure.
I want it to look as real as humanly possible.
Right.
But, it's now because of the cool technology and stuff we have, a lot of people, if anybody's really interested in the whole digital versus film and digital cameras and want to learn a lot, there's a great documentary. It's just put on Netflix. What's it called?
So the Keanu Reeves?
The Keanu Reeves one.
That's a series, though, right? Or is it a single?
It's like 2 hours.
Oh.
It's long. Let's see if I can find it.
You told me about this before, and I haven't watched it yet.
Side by Side.
I'm gonna have to write it down.
It's called Side by Side. As a younger filmmaker watching that, it's a little disheartening seeing some of your idols just trash digital cinema.
Yeah.
Because that's what my generation and the next generation of filmmakers will slowly be using. They're film will be a rare thing or done for the sake of doing it in film.
Right.
It's not going to be the industry standard.
And
ever.
do these heroes of the past like basically sound like that, like guys that are just too used to their own way?
Without biting the hand that feeds, for style wise, like their generation is soon to be over when it comes to technology stuff. So it makes them sound dated a little bit.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the older purists are very much like DSLR cinema doesn't look good, blah blah blah. It just looks different. It doesn't look bad or good. It's just a different look.
Right.
And that's only to a trained eye. A normal audience member is not going to give a crap about, oh, that was filmed on a Canon 5D Mark II.
Yeah, well, I think I
like,
think what you're discussing is true for every generational change. I mean, I fall into that trap with paintings.
Yes.
There are so many painters today that talk about acrylics and how dynamic acrylics can be now because the technology has changed. And I'm just an oil painter.
Oil.
Yeah, that's simply what I was trained in. That's what I know. Yeah. And to this day, if you put them side by side, I'm going to tell you that I like the oil better. It's just a different kind of painting.
It's yeah, and you know, it's one of those things that, you know, I feel my generation of filmmakers views them as almost exactly how you kind of view they're two separate things, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
for us it's not like film's the end all be all.
Yeah,
You know, I
exactly.
love Wally Pfister. I actually got, you know, I got to hear him speak in real life and stuff, and I heard him get to trash James Cameron.
Nice.
But you know, and for those who don't know, Wally Pfister's Chris Nolan cinematographer for every movie you love from him.
And he's
all
very,
the Batmans.
very distinctive look. Very distinctive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, he's one of the few people who can just go to the IMAX Society and just be like, "Can I have the IMAX cameras for the next year and a half?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, right.
You know, so he's, you know, he is a very, very, very talented cinematographer, but he does not like digital. He
No
does
kidding.
not like digital. Which, you know, if I had access to IMAX cameras constantly,
Right,
and I didn't have
right.
to pay out of pocket to get that film
But
developed,
that's-
hell yeah, I would be like, yeah, no, forget digital. Like, I'm filming on IMAX all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of the people who talk in this movie kind of have the Hollywood jaded. You know, I come from, you know, we have money to spend on our film production budgets.
Right.
You know, whereas, you know, you talk to filmmakers like me who, you know, I have you know, a couple pennies on the floor over there.
Right.
You know, that's not necessarily our deal. You know.
Yeah. So with the CGI, is that something that this is another, I think, a misconception, because I know of, and this is probably a horrible suite to bring up, but like After Effects and things like that.
Oh, I love After Effects.
But is CGI considered an open door for lower budget filmmakers to still make high quality stuff?
Yeah, and that being said, like, it's not like the stuff I'm using and the stuff, you know, big movie houses are using are necessarily different.
Right.
Might be a little bit different because they're maybe not editing on Final Cut, they're editing on Avid, which is usually the case.
Right.
But linear editing is linear editing, you know, and I'm sure you, as just, you know, as a traditional artist, can kind of agree. It's, you know, especially when it, you know, I started hearing sayings like this when I, you know, started doing, you know, regular photography.
Yeah.
Is you know, it doesn't really matter what camera you have. It depends on your concept, you know, all the important parts of art. It's not the tools, it's what you make.
Right.
You know? So I'm a huge believer in that. So like, if you know how to use After Effects, like, you know, an After Effects ninja, you can make anything look that good. Like I could with After Effects, you know, hell, even I could do it in Apple Motion.
Yeah.
And I could film myself, you know, recreating a scene from Iron Man, you know, inside the Iron Man suit with a black piece of construction paper behind me, a light right in front of my face, turning around, and, you know, I can track it. You know, take me just by myself a lot longer than necessarily a big movie house. It's time.
Sure.
You're putting in time. That's the trade-off. But you can make an indie outlet, you know, can make really great visual effects. It's just going to take a lot longer.
Gotcha. Well, I remember, just true to that point, is I remember seeing a documentary on, I think it was on Star Trek. Oh no, you know what it was? It was that documentary Trekkies.
Yes.
Where they followed all these different Trekkies. And one of the kids had his own fan fiction thing that he wanted to put to film.
Yes.
And they showed like what he made, and this is going back, what, 15, I mean, at least 15 years ago that they made that documentary, probably more.
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember watching it going, oh my God, that kid made that at home.
Yeah.
And it was really good, like, for the time, you know?
Yeah.
But you're right. I think it's about level of effort, and I think that very, very true to every media out there.
Yeah.
Is that if you leverage the things within the media, you can make amazing things, regardless of what that technology is.
Yes, no, absolutely.
You know, I mean, a kid with a bucket and a stick can make amazing music if he spends the time to figure it out. You know.
Let's be honest at this point too. You know, you don't even need a kid with a stick anymore. How much does, you know, decent music equipment and a Mac cost now?
Right.
You know, you can have your own. Look at me right now. I have, you know, a beautiful vocal condenser mic sitting right here into, you know, couple pieces of electronic equipment, I could cut an album if I was musically talented.
Yep, no, that's exactly right. I
Yeah,
agree.
you know, it's like I have a lot of, very bigger, I have a lot of musician friends who basically, maybe have $1,000 to $2,000, maybe a little more, of music equipment, and they have millions and millions of views on YouTube and have toured the country off of a mixtape they made in their bedroom.
I'll tell you the anecdote that I've always said to people, because I used to get into home recording because I have a brother that's a musician.
Yeah.
And people are always hitting me with the whole, you got to have this, and it's like $1,000, and then you got to have that, and you know what I mean? These crazy things. And for those who like this kind of stuff, I always tell them, people who love the blues, right?
Yeah.
They're always trying to figure out how to get the sound from like the 1950s, 1940s blues sound, like from Chicago and Delta blues, stuff like that. And then they're shocked to hear that the way they got the bass to sound that way was they literally cut holes in trash cans and taped them together into a cone and had it reverberate through the trash cans into an old school mic.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of makes you realize they had literally a budget of like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they made the sound that you wish you could make.
Yeah, and that you're basically trying to make with like $5,000 worth of equipment and like filters and stuff like that. Yeah, no, and like I think it's because I come from like such a theater background, and I've worked as a stagehand and stuff, where you have to jury rig your life.
Oh,
that you have to, and that's why I always like. Honestly, I talked to my other filmmaker friends, and a lot of my crew and stuff, and we're scared of the second we get a big budget. Like, what do we do with that money? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we gonna just? I feel like it's just gonna be spent on like. Should we buy the interns I can
blow all this
convertibles?
On hats.
Yes, exactly. Like, let's buy hats for everyone. Right.
No,
but
you're right.
I don't know. I'm one of those people. Like, if you give me, it's going to design school too. It's like you have these parameters that you need to fit in. Like, this is what you can do, and you learn to beg, borrow, steal everything in between that. You know, so. I don't know, like these people who are like, yeah, $200 million is not enough to make a movie, I think are the stupidest people on the face of the planet.
That is pretty crazy. Well, let's speak of that. Let's speak of the CGI movies that surprise, or the movies that had special effects.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we did say this was CGI, right? But I mean,
yes.
That you were surprised, and I'll give you one that I'm thinking of. Okay. Is and of course I'm going to mess up the title, right? Is it Section 9?
Are you talking about the Neil Blomkamp movie?
I don't know. It's District 9. That's what it is. District 9. Now, from what I understand, that wasn't a huge budget, right?
No, that was. I mean, it's still an ungodly amount of money, but. Originally, that was supposed to be the Halo movie too.
Well, I always heard that Peter Jackson didn't get what he wanted for a budget for Halo.
Yes.
So he told him.
Well, it's like they did a screen test too, and they weren't crazy about it at the time. But let me see. I'm checking the IMDb right now for budget.
For some reason, I always thought that was one of those movies that he didn't get what he wanted, so he kind of threw some money at this guy, and he cranked out this like sleeper hit. I mean. Yeah. Is that not true?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's see. We got
I love that movie. That's a fantastic
30. Yeah, it looks like it was a $30 million budget.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I stand corrected. That
I don't know.
In my world, that would still be a lot of money.
That is still a lot of money. I mean, that is a lot of money in general for a movie too. Still, that's like mid-range. Yeah. But you're looking at. I'm trying to just make sure it isn't like a lot of that isn't distribution, but no, that looks like
production.
Yeah, it looks like production for the most part.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, you get those. I mean, that was nice. That was a good movie, and that was a pretty wide release movie too. Yeah. So, but they're like I've seen YouTube stuff that looked theoretically better than District 9 from the same time.
Gotcha.
So, it really just depends on how much effort and what's getting pushed. And, when there's a studio involved, too, that's what happens.
So what's your favorite CGI type movie?
I don't know. I mean, like,
Or is
I love
CGI
fully
not what?
animated.
Does CGI not like pull you in? Like you're more about the acting and stuff, or the story.
I'm always about the story
Yeah.
for the most part. Like, I don't, however they tell the story is exactly like, if that's how they choose to do it and it works, I'm all right with it, you know?
Right. Right.
CG, it's one of those things that it's, unless it's like a very, very, very specific thing that I'm like really nerding out on, like, oh, they used the really experimental red camera that's not even like still a
Right.
prototype right now. I want to see it. Like that, I'd go see.
Yeah.
But like that's super specific, and no one else is gonna
Right.
care. You know?
No one bringing their kids to the movie is
It's
going
like,
to
hey,
care.
look, we're gonna watch this experimental red camera.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Well, how
you know,
about
no
all
one's
these
telling an
animated
8-year-old that.
movies that are all
See,
not animated anymore? They're really just CGI movies, right?
I love those.
You do?
I
Okay.
love. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like especially the ones that are just CGI. They're not trying to pass off for the faux hand animated look. You know, a
Right,
lot
right.
of the contemporary Disney movies right now, which that could be a whole nother episode within itself.
Are you talking about like the Pixar movies?
No, I'm talking like you know, you got the Princess and the Frog. Pretty
Oh,
much
yeah,
anything
yeah.
after. I think. What was the
But
last?
I thought they
animated
kind
movie?
of ditched those though now. No?
Nah, I wouldn't say so. I just think that we're not hearing as much about it now, just
Okay.
publicly. But you know, a lot of the CG movies and stuff like Pixar. I think Pixar, they're making the best movies in Hollywood consistently,
Yeah.
like hands down. I
Yeah,
don't-
well,
I-
and that rings true to your story comment. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
their stories are
their story
more,
first, always.
Yeah,
like,
they're very well developed.
Yeah.
Very well developed.
so. Yeah, they're always really well developed, and their CG is great. And I mean, like, that's why I love the shorts too. Before
Yeah.
a lot of the Pixar movies that come out, because they're all made for a reason. A lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, it's just a cute short at the beginning. It's them testing out something that they made, because a lot of people don't realize is Pixar makes its own software to
Right,
make
right.
those movies too. It's called RenderMan.
Yep.
And like, if they're trying out something new or some new technique or something like that, or a new rendering process or something like that, that's where they test out in the shorts, is like they test it out in an actual production situation. A lot of the interns work on it too.
Gotcha.
But
Now,
you know,
now, do you think DreamWorks is comparable to Pixar or not?
animation quality wise, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say like they're good.
I
They
mean,
are very
story
good.
wise, they're a totally different kind of company.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are a very different kind of company, and there's many more people involved. Whereas, you know, Pixar is kind of the John Lasseter vision,
Right. Okay.
rather than, you know, and DreamWorks has been a company for a long time now, and they kind of, you know, they're all over the place. They're making a lot of different stuff.
Right.
So they're, you know, I understand why necessarily their stuff can be hit or miss, because they're just such a large, it's a way bigger company than Pixar.
Well, it definitely seems where Pixar seems like that great theater troupe that you love, and
Yes.
they'll try different things. DreamWorks seems like an actual, and I don't say this with any kind of diss to Pixar, but
Yeah.
they seem more like a movie company who makes these kind of movies, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
And the talent they bring in, the kind of stories they use are much more kind of like your mainstream, normal kind of pitch to a, hey, bring your kids and we'll have some adult jokes in there too type stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas I don't know. I think Pixar is the high art version.
Yes, I agree. No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, there's DreamWorks is one of those like, oh, it's, you know, fluff summer movies for my kids.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And their movies can be very good. Like,
Oh yeah.
what was that? Was
Well,
How to Train Your Dragon a DreamWorks movie?
Which one?
How to Train Your Dragon?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, I think that movie's brilliant, and that
Yeah.
movie was like that story was really good, especially that ending too. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is children. That's dark. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, my kids are obsessed with the Despicable Me movies.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
DreamWorks, right?
Yeah, they got picked up by DreamWorks though. I believe it was kind of almost a pseudo indie movie,
Oh, really?
a little bit. Like,
Have you seen the new one?
I haven't seen the new one yet.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for, it to slow down so I don't have to see the movie with like a bunch of children
Yeah.
at work. So
I was that guy who took a bunch of children.
yes, no, that's totally fine. Like,
Yeah.
but it's just like every time I'm working, they're just, that's when the slow showings are.
Yeah, I gotta say I did like the first one better, but
Yes.
but still it was cute. It was good.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely, and that's a movie that everything got kind of thought out for.
Yeah.
Even the soundtrack. Pharrell did the whole soundtrack. If for those of you who are familiar with the music producer and artist Pharrell, from the Neptunes, he did like all the music for it. So it was really tight. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, like just and everything got kind of thought out, and just the voice cast alone. You had Steve Carell, Jason Segel, Russell Brand, Julie Andrews, Will Arnett, Kristen Wiig.
That's was Jason Segel on the sequel? No.
No, he was just
on the original.
Yeah.
But he's actually my favorite character on that was the Vector. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and of course Will Arnett as the head of the evil bank, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, formerly Liam. What was the sign? Was it Liam Brothers?
Lehman
Brothers, whatever.
Yeah.
No, that was I loved the little humor in that movie, but
yeah. Well, I'm trying to think what other CGI. What are we missing? What are we now thinking of as far as CGI?
I mean, CGI where it completely ruins movies other than Star Wars. I mean, I think movies that heavily rely on CG that can be fun but are just really horrible.
Okay.
Transformers,
yeah,
Transformers are fun.
Yep.
I would take if I had male children. Or female children
who
would be really into robots.
You couldn't just say boys. If I had male children,
even kid adults. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
17-year-old son just be like, yo, let's go see Transformers right now.
And I'll tell you right now, that's a must see. No matter who makes it and what it's about, my kids have to go see it.
Robots blowing each other up.
Exactly.
You cannot go wrong.
No, I mean and now, are you a guy who hates what's his name there, the director?
Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I've literally read multiple interviews where Michael Bay has come out and said, I make movies for teenage boys. Is that a fucking big deal?
Right.
But I don't think it's that big of a deal. I will go see a Michael Bay movie because I know exactly what I'm getting into, and I know there is nothing that's going to literally I know. I'm gonna watch a bunch of explosions, ridiculous one-liners, dudes jumping off buildings,
That's actually kind of how I feel about it. Is that I think that people get too snobby because he knows what he's making.
Yeah.
Hey, the guy who produces and makes Sesame Street knows what he's making, but we don't jump all over him.
Exactly. And with Michael Bay, it'd be one thing that if he was acting super pretentious about it, just being like, my movies are art.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the deepest movies. Transformers: Dark Side of the Moon. It's just or it's Dark of the Moon.
It's part of my soul or something like that. Yeah,
it's really important.
Yeah,
but
it's a political message.
It's a political statement on the current regime. Yeah, then I would want to punch him in the face and I would refuse to see his movies. But he goes, no, dude, they're robots.
Exactly.
Blowing up.
And I gotta say, I mean, my two comments, I have a good comment about him and a bad comment about him.
Mm-hmm.
One is I wish we didn't have so much slow-mo in half these movies because I think he overdoes slow-mo.
But it makes for a good drinking game.
I know. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I remember when we watched, didn't he do what's the one where we blow up the asteroid and all that? The
Armageddon.
Didn't he do Armageddon?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even tell you. I think a third of the movie is in slow motion. I mean, the movie would have been 45 minutes if it wasn't for the slow motion, right?
Yeah.
But I gotta say, in the Transformers movies and even some of the other movies, no one does a car chase quite like Michael Bay. I mean,
no, seriously, Michael Bay. If I could hire a bunch of directors to make a super movie, I'd hire Michael Bay to do all my action scenes.
Oh yeah,
hands down. Without
He's
even
sick.
As long as there is no exposition going on.
Right.
if I was just like, I need you to make some stuff blow up for me.
Exactly. No, he's fantastic
Film
at
it.
that.
That would be that. Yes, I would pay him as much money as he asked me.
Right.
You know, but it's not like I'm gonna go watch. I'm not watching his movies to be, moved like I watch Schindler's List or something. You know,
Right. Well,
you know what I'm saying? I would not hire him to make a Schindler's List.
Yeah, that's the point, though. He's not that guy. So that makes perfect sense.
Not at all. And
what about Del Toro, the new Pacific Rim stuff? And all
okay,
that?
I haven't seen Pacific Rim yet. I'm actually I shocked. I was trying to see it a few days before it came out. One of the upsides of working in a movie theater.
Yep.
But basically, all of my friends, all of the people I work with who have seen it too, are basically, saying it is it's a little Michael Bay in the sense that you're gonna watch a bunch of giant robots fight a bunch of giant monsters. Don't go in expecting more, and you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, and that's like, what I'm looking for. So
yeah, exactly. So it's supposedly bananas. My girlfriend literally hasn't been able to sleep 2 nights because she gets scared real easy. And,
should I see a movie like that in 3D or in 2D?
If you like 3D, you probably should see it in 3D.
I don't generally like 3D.
Okay, then see it in 2D.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't watch any movies in 3D
I'm
unless
not a
it's
fan.
something that's originally shot in 3D. Unless it's like a true 3D production.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see it in 3D. Especially
Yeah. Well, like
if it's post.
even The Hobbit, I only saw it in 3D because I wanted to see the high frame rate. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the high frame rate. I walked into a showing of it, I think like right after my shift had ended or something, and I watched maybe 20 minutes of it, and I seriously started to get a really bad headache. But
well, that's what I get when I mean,
yeah,
I'm
blind.
I'll tell you my thing with 3D. My biggest statement about it is my 9-year-old son
yeah,
doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And instantly in my mind, it's like, if you can't capture a 9-year-old,
a 9-year-old boy,
you're dead on arrival, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I one of my friend's nephews didn't want to see Transformers in 3D.
Yeah.
Like if that is your demographic.
Exactly.
Right there.
It's crazy. I'm trying to think the other big. What's the other big special effects movie that just came out?
There's actually a few. There's been a lot of sci-fi movies. So you got
Superman,
After Earth.
well, let's talk about After Earth because I did not see it, but I heard it was terrible.
You know why it was terrible, right?
Because it was Will Smith. I mean,
no. Guess who it's directed by?
Oh, I don't know.
No one realized who it was directed by because they didn't use it to promote it.
Who?
M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. No one realized that. I'm like, oh, I remember we had the poster really early at my job, and I was just like, who? I'm like looking all over it. I'm like, who's directing it? And I look it up and I go, no. Who let him have another movie?
Talk about a guy who fell from grace, huh?
Oh my God. Yeah, the beginning, some of his movies are phenomenal. And then it just I don't know. I don't know what happened to him, man. He had so much potential.
I know. I mean, it's almost like he just milked it dry right away.
Yeah. It's like he literally just all of his best material out the gate.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's what happened.
I mean, I guess occasionally can happen, but that was an $130 million movie.
Oh my God.
That was not an inexpensive movie to make, and that bombed. It bombed.
Oh yeah. That's all I heard was what a disaster it was.
Yeah.
And that's I want to say that's like a second stinker in a row because the Will Smith effect where every year he has to have some kind of blockbuster film come out in the summertime, right? And I think the last couple he's done, I'm just not even bothering, not even gonna go look,
I mean, let's see. After Men in Black 3 actually was really good though.
Yeah, that was kind of a we'll watch it at home kind of feeling.
Yeah, that's one that you're gonna Redbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually liked Men in Black 3.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to like it either. Josh Brolin is great.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, After Earth, just to put that in perspective for you, $130 million estimated budget.
Oh my God.
So it's probably a little more with distribution and stuff, and it's going to go up eventually too once it like goes out on DVD and stuff because they have to
Produce that.
Yeah, maybe another 2 million.
Wow.
Depending on what they do with it.
You know, that should be a show sometime, is we just do stats on like money, because I think the money part just blows my mind when we talk about some of these movies. You know,
it grossed not even $60 million.
Well, I heard Lone Ranger didn't do well either, right?
Which you know what? I know critics like crucified that movie.
I'm actually still going to go see it because I want to see it.
Had so much fun in that movie. It's a little long. You cut out maybe 20 minutes of it.
Yeah.
But oh my god, it was fun.
Well, I gave my son, because I actually really wanted to take my son to go see Lone Ranger, because I kind of wanted him to see like a cowboy movie and stuff, you know. And he's really never been exposed to any kind of, because the good cowboy movies coming out are really more adult films, you know. And, you know, not for a 9-year-old kid.
You're not going to believe me when I tell you the budget of that movie.
I saw something. I forget what it was, but it was crazy.
It's $250 million. That's a lot.
Oh, my God.
$250 million is the estimated
nuts.
budget according to IMDb.
Oh, my God. That is crazy.
$250 million.
Well, I will still give them my 2 cents, because I still want to see it. I gave my son Adam, the option of seeing that or Superman, and he picked Superman. And Superman I actually liked. I didn't.
Superman.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought the guy they picked. I'm a diehard Christopher Reeves was Superman, but the guy they picked at least fit the character pretty well. I mean,
I feel like we're gonna see a better performance out of him in the upcoming Supermans.
Well, the only person I really could not stand was the chick they used for Lois Lane.
Amy Adams.
I'm just not into her. I'm just not feeling it.
That's fair. I feel like a lot of those characters are gonna get developed more.
Yeah.
In the further movies, they had to set up a lot of stuff. I think.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely epic.
Grand master plan for this whole thing too. But Lone Ranger, $250 million.
So hey, something I want us to start ending on, because I always think of this, either a movie coming out that we gotta go see, or a movie that you just saw that maybe people don't know of, that you go, oh my god, and I'll have mine for you, you know. But something that is on your mind that may have nothing to do with CGI, you know.
Kick-Ass 2. I want to see it so bad.
Oh, is it coming out? Is there a Kick-Ass 2?
It's coming out soon.
Oh, no kidding.
Have you not seen the trailer?
No, I have not.
You know Jim Carrey's in it.
I did not. I knew nothing about. I didn't even know they were making a Kick-Ass 2.
Jim Carrey plays. What's his character's name?
I'm writing it down.
It's Colonel Stars and Stripes. He plays like a super American, but it's like a serious role for him too. So I think it's going to be serious.
That's cool.
Yeah,
is
and
it the same
movie,
kid from the first one?
Mm-hmm. It's the exact same cast for all of the people who are more or less
not dead.
Yeah, not dead. I mean, there's like a few random people who are coming in from it too, like Donald Faison from Scrubs. Turk.
Okay. Yep.
He's gonna be in it.
That's cool.
There's like a few like random, you know.
Nick Cage got killed in the first one, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he played Big Daddy. So.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
You know what? Like Nick Cage, I like Nick Cage for for as ridiculous he is. I love how Nick Cage is, you know.
Yeah, well,
and I thought he was great in that movie.
I like the fact that he can make fun of himself, and he knows what he's doing. You know, I mean, I think he knows what he's doing, and he's riding that wave of what people like him to do. Because in all honesty, to this day, my favorite role of his is Raising Arizona.
Yes.
I mean, and that is Nicolas Cage to me. Like that is his, you know what I mean? Even though obviously he's more than that, but in my mind, that was kind of like he really embodied that character more than he has any of the other characters that I've seen him do, you know?
Yeah.
So, and it's just how I remember him. First time I saw him, I'm like, wow, that guy is perfect as that, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. What are you amped up for? What do you?
Well, I am amped up for Pacific Rim, I gotta say, and that's kind of like my childhood in a can. But I will tell you one movie that I have not finished it yet, but in watching half of it so far, I would think that you need to check it out just to check it out, being a film guy.
Okay.
Because I am amazed by some of the shooting in it.
Yeah.
But it's I will put it right out there. Super boring.
Okay.
Okay, so story-wise, nothing there, man.
Yes. Okay.
But you will be amazed when they walk from indoors to outdoors, like how clear everything is. And everything.
Yeah, that's
it's called the Turin horse.
Okay.
And it's by some dude. He's like a famous German or Russian filmmaker.
Yeah.
But it's on Netflix, and it's called the Turin horse.
Okay.
And I read an article about it. About a year ago or something like that, and about how this guy basically made it as the story is very nonsensical. It really doesn't need to be a story.
Yeah.
It's really a vignette about Russian life, like at this time. But the idea was that there's an old story about Nietzsche when he was there, when he was around, where he saw a guy whipping a cab driver, and at the time was a horse-drawn cab, right?
Okay.
And the cab driver was whipping his horse because the horse was stubborn and wouldn't move.
Yeah.
And Nietzsche had so much sympathy for the horse that he went over and hugged the horse, and the guy stopped whipping him and all this other stuff, right? Well, this story is really about the day after that, the guy coming home from that with his horse. It's about what happens to the horse.
Okay.
So it's really just a vignette about a guy who's an old guy who's a Russian, his daughter who lives with him, and they're in this one-room house out in the country in Russia in the old days.
Okay.
And they eat one potato a day and all this other stuff. So it's very vignette-y. It's very motif,
Okay.
And it's about their life after that happened.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm only halfway through it, so I'm really praying to God something starts to happen. But filming-wise, like shot-by-shot-wise, there's a lot of beautiful shots. I mean, you really got to be a nerd into film, I would think, or imagery at least, to be into it. Because, man, they walk outside, and it's that crisp air. Like, you can feel it, and it's all in black and white. Yeah. And you can just feel the atmosphere. Like, you're just mortified by the life these people live.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's interesting. So anyways,
okay.
I'll
yeah,
give you
definitely
that
have
one.
to check that out.
Yeah, and then I'm about to go on a tear, baby, because my family's going to Florida in about 5 short hours, and that usually is queue up time for Matt to watch anything he wants, So I will be pounding through a set list. If you have ideas, send them to me, because my wife doesn't go for any of these art films and documentaries and crap like that. So like the one you were talking about, the side by side, I'll definitely watch that. Yeah. But I'll be hitting a lot of weird things, I'm sure, while they're gone.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Well, that's us at an hour, man.
Yeah,
blew
pretty
through
much
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what we'll do next time. Maybe we'll do the budgets one for the next show.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
But yeah, I'll get this up there on the web right away.
Yeah.
So, all right, great. Thank you very much, Kevin Walunas.
Matt Foster.
And we will talk to you next time.
Later.
All right.